Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in 1 Kings and 2 Chronicles. And the read out of 1 Kings was chapter 2 from verse 13 all the way through the end of chapter 2 and starting in chapter 3, reading all the way up to verse 38. And then we go over to 2 Chronicles and we read 1 Chronicles verses 1 through 13. This is the story of Solomon establishing his kingdom once he has been appointed king by David. And First Kings, he establishes his throne and his kingdom by establishing his authority. He takes out some of the men that David, his father, had told him, look, when you come into your kingdom, you don't want this baggage left over from when I was king. You need to take care of these people. And so he and one of my favorite characters, Benaiah, kill some of the bad guys so that they do not um, influence his rule and his authority as he moves forward as king. So once he does this, nobody's going to mess with Solomon. So he establishes his throne through his authority, and then he establishes his throne through wisdom. And the story at the end of First Kings is the two women who are fighting over this one baby. And he shows his great wisdom in saying, well, just cut the baby in half. And one lady says, no, don't kill the baby. And the other one was like, well, go ahead. And he realizes the one that loves the child is the mother and gives the child to the mother. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, he's got such incredible wisdom. Second Chronicles um, doesn't cover that whole story. It just covers that part where where Solomon takes all of the leaders of Israel and he takes them to the temple. I mean, he sets an example right off the bat. He's established authority, wisdom, but he also establishes his spirit and how his relationship to God is so important to his reign. He takes them all basically to church. He takes them to the temple, makes sacrifices, and there God asks him, man, what do you want for your rule? I'll give you whatever you ask for. A blank check statement. And basically he says, just give me wisdom, Lord. And so let's pick up that in chapter 3, verse 9 of 1 Kings. The two reads I'm going to be giving you today are out of 1 Kings. So we do read 2 Chronicles, but I'm looking basically at the ones in 1 Kings. So chapter 3, verse 9 says, so give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? Solomon asks for the very things that every street cop, every law enforcement officer in this country and in the whole world needs. We all need the ability for God to give us an understanding heart to be able to judge and discern between good and evil. If we can do that, we can carry out God's justice on this earth. But God says, because you asked for those things, the wise things, God gives him a lot of other things. It's kind of like that verse that says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. It's a theme in the Bible. It's very important. And as law enforcement officers, the little lights ought to start going off, and we need to start praying that prayer. Chapter 3, verses 6 through 28. Again, Solomon judges very wisely with the two women. And at the end of it, in verse 28, a great law enforcement verse, it says, the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice. We need that. We want that. But we've got to pray that we would have God's understanding heart and the discernment to be able to tell between good and evil. Tomorrow our reads in 1 Kings chapters 5 and 6 and 2 Chronicles chapters 2 and 3. So read up, come back here, and we'll do this again. Be safe.